Welcome to the stage, Chris. I do apologize for all of the hubbub. I'm hoping we can streamline it and for future guests. But thank you so much for working with us to get this done and coming on.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So for those of you who don't know, we did a round table at the beginning. We had all the guests on at once and we asked them accessibility questions. So definitely check out the recording if you missed it, but I will let Chris, he's down here, introduce himself. Tell us about yourself.
So name is Chris DeMars. I'm a developer advocate / front-end developer at Rocket Mortgage here in Detroit, Michigan. And I love accessibility and I love spooky stuff and I love tattoos and paintball and hockey and dirt bikes and all the fun things. That's me.
Yeah, sorry, I was on mute because my dog is going crazy downstairs, which means hopefully we're receiving a package. That would be nice. Nice, like I feel like if he barks, I should at least get something out of it, like a delivery. But
I was just currently soaking my desk in water, so don't mind me.
Fun time for everyone.
Thanks
Sorry
for the follow.
Chris.
I'm gonna say Cynthia Eaters. Cynthia Eaters. Thank you. Welcome to the fam. Welcome. Oh, Chris, do you have a screen to share? Do you want me to plop something up beautifully?
I do. This is going to be a little weird. So let me know what you see when I do this. What screen do you see?
Nothing yet.
Oh no. Well, that's because I have to share my screen.
Hello to Cynthia.
Hi.
We're so glad you're here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Brave was asking if I did send the security code. No, and I also didn't sacrifice a goat this morning, so that's why you're all feeling the pain.
Mistake number 1. You skipped the ritual sacrifice.
There's a goat shortage, so I don't know what you all want from me. Oh, I see Y real big with some green. I like it.
Is that all you see is Y? There's no speaker notes?
Nope. Yep. Just the Y. It looks perfect.
Cool. All right. Well, whenever you're ready, I am ready.
Take it away. I'm excited.
Cool. Well, thanks so much for having me. I'm really stoked to be here. I'm always stoked to do stuff with my friends over at Progress. Why? I talked about this earlier in the panel that we did, the roundtable. Why do I care? Why do you care about accessibility so much, Chris? I get that question a lot. And like I said, if you did tune in this morning, you heard my why. My why is my mom. You know, she has a handful of different types of disabilities and impairments. She wears glasses. She was diagnosed with macular degeneration last year. So she's, at some point, the eyesight's going to be completely gone. But she is taking medication to kind of hinder that from happening. I have to talk really loud sometimes for her to hear me. She doesn't have hearing aids yet, but hopefully we can push that off for as far as we need to. She has trouble walking. She has arthritis. She has really bad, nerve issues throughout her body. I could tell her that I was doing this talk today for the Valentine's Day special. I could have talked to her last night and told her I was doing this. She could be calling me right now and ask me what I'm doing. She wouldn't have any recollection of what I told her, but she can remember stuff from 1977, the month and the day, like that. So we have a little bit of some cognitive impairment there as well. Thankfully, she doesn't have any type of temporary impairment or temporary disability that is visible. No broken hand, no broken finger, which is really good. But she has all of these other things, right? And it's not just on and off. It's not just you're either deaf or you're blind. There's a lot of varying disabilities out there. And if I can make an accessible user experience for her at the end of the day, I have done my job as a worker on the web, as a developer. This is anybody who is building for the web and building software. That's my why. So if you were wondering what your why was, and maybe you were unsure of what your why is or was, you can reflect after this and think about that for a minute, and maybe that'll strike you. My talk is I can't see, low vision, A11y, and users. My name's Chris, developer advocate slash front end developer. You can catch me on Twitter at Salt and Burnham. If you are a Supernatural fan, you will understand that reference. Hopefully there's a lot of Supernatural fans out there. I work at Rocket Mortgage, which is here in Detroit, Michigan. We also have other offices around the country. If you're familiar with Quicken Loans, that is Rocket Mortgage. I did have some slides to talk about me, who I was at one point. And I got some feedback one time. There's like, Chris, we don't really care about you. We care about your slides. And it kind of hurt me a little bit in the feels. But I thought about it at some point, and I was like, you know what? I'm just going to add these back in. So a little bit more about me. I'm a Google developer expert. I'm a Microsoft MVP, international speaker. Recently became a Progress Ninja of the Progress Ninja program. I am also an Auth0 ambassador, a Cloudinary MDE, stands for media developer, and love tattoos and horror and spooky stuff. Now, if you are at home listening and you can raise your hand, or if you can't raise your hand or anything, how many have heard this before? I can't see that. I'm assuming a handful. You know, I've said it. I have glasses on. Now, when someone says they can't see that or I can't see that, what do they mean? Do they mean they really can't see it because of color or disabled features? Do they have some type of low vision impairment that would hinder them from observing what's on the screen? And if they do have a low vision impairment, what can we as developers and workers on the web and designers do to help in aiding them to give them that great accessible user experience? Now, this is a percentage of people with disabilities all over the place, all around the world. This number might be a little bit higher now than it was in the past, but give or take, there's 7 billion people around the world. According to this, 1.4 billion of them have some type of disability. Right now, that's a huge number. But when you look at this, 62% no disabilities, 38% disabilities. 38 doesn't seem like a huge number, right? It's under 50. But still, when you break that down into whole numbers, that is a big number, 1.4 billion, maybe 1.5, 1.6. But I get this a lot too. All of our applications are internal, Chris. We have internal intranets and we have internal applications. We don't have anybody on staff that has a disability. And I always call BS with that. You have to internalize that 38%, right? Bring that into your work and your company culture. Not everybody's going to come out and tell you that they have a disability. It might be embarrassing, right? And if they do, that could also spark other types of hidden impairments like anxiety, different types of anxieties. You need to internalize that 38%. I've worked with developers and designers and QA and BA in previous jobs who were colorblind and deaf and had trouble seeing and were possibly dyslexic or possibly on the spectrum. That 38%, whatever that number is, you need to internalize that within your organization as well. So this might have been already covered. If you have heard the term A11y or ALE or ALI, you might have seen this letter and number combination before, but have not known what it is. We call it a numeronym. And what a numeronym is if you take the first letter or the last letter, you count the letters in between, and then you get your numernim, A11y.
So that's a real word.
Yeah.
Nim is a real word. Okay.
Numernim.
Yeah, we see it
Yep.
also. The ones I would think of were the Kubernetes one I threw out there earlier, or internationalization, which we see as I18N a bunch. So
Yep. Yep. You've seen this in the wild. You've seen this in the wild elsewhere with internationalization, I18N. You've seen it with localization, L10N, and then Kubernetes, which is K8S. So anytime you hear A11y, it is a numernim for accessibility.
There was lots of love in the chat for you, by the way, from the beginning to all the way to now, of sending you good vibes and talking about. Brave was just saying how weird it is that we devs forget about these things until we're confronted about it. And so I think it was lots of good points. It's very good stuff, Chris.
Awesome. I love the love. I wish I could see it, but I just have my presenter view and my slides. So I got your commentary in my ear. We're good.
I'll call it out for you.
Hell yeah, I appreciate that. So yeah, what is A11y? What is accessibility? And I get that question too, and this can be different for everybody. I was talking to a buddy of mine, Nick Steenhout, and awesome accessibility advocate, very, very smart person. And I asked him one time, I said, Nick, is anything ever going to be 100% accessible? And he said, never. Nothing will ever be 100% accessible, because accessibility means something different to everybody, which was a great point. It's it's not just a one size fits all. The way somebody over here defines accessibility might be very different from how somebody else defines accessibility over here, right? But we're trying to achieve one goal and one true north, and that is to make the web and software a better place by making those accessible user experiences. So according to the W3, this is what they say. The W3 says web accessibility means that people with disabilities can use the web. But I'm not sure if I like that definition that much. Because if this is an open web, and an open web is an inclusive web, and an inclusive web means a web for all, this sounds a lot better. Web accessibility means that everyone can use the web. Everybody should be able to have an amazing, accessible user experience, regardless of what is going on, whether there's an impairment or not an impairment. Everybody should be able to use the same experience the same way. That helps with the disability, with accessibility, and it just makes the web a better place for everybody. Here's another one. This is a great one from WebAIM. The web is not a barrier to people with disabilities. It is the solution. Now, the key word in there being solution. It's our job as developers and designers and product owners or anybody that has their hand in that web experience to come up with solutions, right? That's what we do. We are solution providers. We are here to make the world a better place. We are here to make the web a better place. We are here to make software a better place. We're doing this, not just because the money is good, right? I do it because I want my users and all the clients and anybody out there using the experience to have a great experience, right? Because sometimes that's the gateway for everybody else to be in touch with the world. So with that being said, we have to really keep in mind and be cognizant of accessibility and what we're, our overall goal for what we're doing. All right, here's a quote from me. Accessibility is not a requirement. It is a must. And I've updated this recently to change some things around, but it's not just a requirement. It's, it is a must. It's something that you have to care about, and you should be caring about from the beginning when you're building out these experiences. Here is a chart I love to show, and I know it's a little bit older. I haven't been able to find an up-to-date one, but this is from the Seyfarth Shaw website. It was titled 2017 Website Accessibility Lawsuit, Recap a Tough Year for Businesses. And you can see right here there's 9 states and then Puerto Rico, federal website lawsuits by state in 2017. And the 2 highest being Florida and New York, 325 to 335, but at least 814 in a year just from those states and Puerto Rico. That is So much that is so uncalled for, right? Now, there's reasons why Florida is really high, and there's reasons that New York is really high. Aging population, a lot more people, density, different types of laws, different types of occupations. Um, but that is just mind blowing to see numbers like that, 814, and just that small amount of states, including Puerto Rico. It's mind blowing. So when we talk about different types of disabilities, the first thing that comes to mind, blind users and deaf users, and that's, like I was saying, that's not the case. That's why we have screen readers for blind users. It's more complex than that. We have braille machines for blind users that read output from the screen, and we have sip and puff machines, and we have tapping machines, and different other types of assistive technology for all these different types of users. But the one things that we need to be talking about for disabilities, we talk about hearing disabilities, and it's not just deaf or hard of hearing. We have conductive hearing loss. We have sensory neural hearing loss. We have mixed hearing loss, right? We have cognitive disabilities, memory and problem solving and reading and verbal comprehension. We have mobility disabilities, cerebral palsy, arthritis, MS. We have temporary impairments, broken hand, broken arm, broken finger, things that we'll be able to at some point get over that are hindering us at the time, but in the future might not. And then we have vision, right? And that's what I'm going to talk about today. I'm going to talk about vision disabilities, but specifically, I'm going to talk about low vision disabilities.
So Brave had a question. As you cannot cover them all, where's the threshold in adding extra A11y? When is that a must satisfied? That sentence doesn't make sense to me. When is that? Yes. So as you can't cover them all, where is the threshold to add extra accessibility, I guess, needs? I don't even know if is there a site or something that's listing out all, or because I feel like it's constantly growing and changing as we learn more, right? So
yeah, you can go to if you were to Google the WCAG, Web Content Accessibility Guidelines 2.1, there's tons and tons and tons of information that the W3 has around accessibility, and there's working groups and there's boards and tons of information out there all about different types of disabilities. Like the low vision talk I'm giving right now, there is a bunch of documentation on all different types of low vision impairments, and I'm only covering a few of those. So definitely check out the W3, check out WCAG for way more information.
Awesome. And there's that link that Catherine shared. Perfect.
Cool. So yeah, before we get into that, I want to talk about POUR a little bit. POUR is a 4-letter acronym. Memorize, sleep, eat, breathe this acronym. We should all be basing our accessibility efforts off of this. These are the 4 main guiding principles of accessibility. First, perceivable. So is the experience easily readable? Can I view the images? Can I use a screen reader? Operable. Can I use just a keyboard? Are the interactions easy? Are there timers on certain actions? Understandable. Do I understand the language that's being presented to me? Are there supplemental representations for things that I don't understand on the screen? Like words and associated pictures, maybe some imagery. And robust. Can the experience be viewed and used across a wide range of technologies? So out of those 4 that make up that acronym, the one we're going to focus on when it comes to low vision is perceivable. We're going to talk about things that are perceivable in this talk.
Cynthia was saying, I haven't seen POUR in years. Thanks for the reminder. I personally have never heard of POUR. This is really cool. Catherine, have you? Did you know about this acronym?
I have heard about it. I also had not thought about it in a long time, but it was something I had seen before briefly. But it's cool. It's a really good reminder. I like it.
Yeah. Well, and like I was saying, POUR is the 4 guiding principles of the accessibility, and that's a lot of what the conformance levels are based off of. when we're talking. If we were to get into conformance levels, which we're not going to get into in this talk, but that all goes back to that, poor. One thing I do want to say first, though, is that poor vision and low vision are very different. Poor vision can be corrected by glasses and contacts. Low vision can't be corrected. So like I was saying, my mom has macular degeneration of one eye. That can be put off as long as it can be with medicine, but at some point, and hopefully it's not soon, she will lose vision in that eye, and she will not be able to get that back. So let's talk about vision abilities and disabilities for a bit. Users with full vision, they can make out things around them, culturally speaking. They know the difference between street lights, red, green, and amber. They can read text and they can read words. They can make sense of symbolic and visual cues. And they can also perceive colors, right? Users with visual disabilities, on the other hand, might not have that luxury. But there are other ways of communication for visually disabled users, one of them being audio format, which is what we would get with a screen reader or some type of output device that's reading from a display. Now, everybody's here to learn about low vision and accessibility. So we're going to get into some of the different types of low vision disabilities that we encounter on our journey as web people and builders of the web and ambassadors of the web. And the first on the list, we're going to talk about color blindness or color vision deficiency, or CVD for short. So what is it? That's a great question. What does color blindness mean? Now, before I start any of this stuff, I just want to have a small caveat that I am not a doctor, an ophthalmologist, an optometrist. I am just a accessibility advocate and worker of the web that is trying to make the web a better place. So what is it? Does that mean you're just seeing shades of gray? Maybe. Maybe that's what it means. The AOA says that color vision deficiency is the inability to distinguish certain shades of color, right? So what does that mean? Some colors represent other colors on the color wheel. That's kind of what that means. So how many people around the world are colorblind? I did some research on this years back of a study out of the UK and kind of got some of these numbers. 1 in 12 men are affected by some type of color blindness, and 1 in 200 women are affected by some type of color blindness. So it's very, very different. You do definitely see a lot of men that do have some type of color vision deficiency. So it's a 94%, to 6%. And in my research that I was doing when I was learning about color vision deficiency and the different types of color vision deficiency and what those are, I found out that the gene is actually passed down from the mom. So just some food for thought. Thanks, Mom. I appreciate that so much. So we have some types of color vision deficiency. And there's a handful of them that I'm going to talk about. This is normal vision. So if you don't have any type of CVD, this is most likely how you would see color. But we have deuteranopia, which is a reduced sensitivity to green light, and it's the most common type of color vision deficiency. We have protanopia, which is a reduced sensitivity to red light. Last, but technically not least, is tritanopia, which is a reduced sensitivity to blue light. It's an extremely rare version or extremely rare type of color vision deficiency. But we have one last type, one very, very last type, and that's monochromatic. Now, I know that it's not like this for everybody where you see in shades of gray, but I kind of gave you a hint that it is possible. 1 in 33,000, I said that right, 1 in 33,000 people around the world have this color vision deficiency. Also, it's also called a chromatopsia. So if you hear somebody say, "Oh, I have chromatopsia," they are saying that they have a monochromatic color vision deficiency. So another type of
Robert
low
was saying
vision,
that's much higher than he even expected. So yeah, the
yeah.
percentage there.
The another type of color vision, or not color vision deficiency, another type of low vision impairment is visual acuity. Now, when I say the words visual acuity, what comes to mind? And hopefully everybody's thinking like, I'm a nerd and I like nerdy movies and pop culture. If I were to say visual acuity, what comes to mind? 4 seconds.
Nothing. Chat. Nothing.
2.
I know. I'm trying to think of something now. Visual acuity.
Think of movies.
Movie. Are you talking?
Mhm.
But nerdy, sci-fi.
I know. Like I feel like I'm overthinking this now.
I know. I'm like,
Ooh, oh wait, is it like in CSI when they're like enhance?
Does everybody give up?
Yeah, I think so. I think we've officially.
Visual acuity. The T-Rex's visual acuity is based on movement.
Nice.
He'll lose you if you don't move. Now that's these are 2 different types of visual acuity, right? But what happens when you move in front of a T-Rex?
You get eated.
Yeah,
You end up like Gennaro. You
Yeah.
end up like Gennaro, and that's not what we want. But also on a side note, Jurassic World Dominion trailer came out the other day, and I'm so stoked for it.
Did it? Oh,
It did.
There's
It
a
did.
whole
I'm
nother.
super stoked.
Someone's trying to start a fight in the chat.
Oh,
Just
no.
Brave said, "Are we doing Star Trek versus Star Wars right now?" No, I don't think that's
I'm
where
glad
Chris
I
is
can't
going.
see the chat right now.
Yeah.
So visual acuity, what is it? That's another great question. Have you seen a chart like this before? I have.
Ugh,
I've had to.
They bring me great anxiety.
I had to read a chart like this, right? If you have glasses or contacts, or you've been to an eye doctor, chances are you've seen this. This is a visual distance chart, a visual acuity distance chart, or a Snellen chart. And it's Snellen chart is to determine the clarity of your vision at 20 feet. So if you've heard that you've had 20/20 vision, you might have been able to read this at 20 feet. Now, 20/20 vision, just because you can read this doesn't mean that you have perfect vision. There are other things that make up perfect vision. That's your peripheral vision, both top and bottom and left and right. That is color vision deficiencies. A lot of things make up 20/20 vision. But if you can read this at 20 feet, you're on your way to possibly having 20/20 vision. But this is a Snellen chart, and this is used to determine visual acuity. Now we have types of visual acuity. What are those types of visual acuity that are out there? We have 3 different types. Like I was saying before, I'm not an optometrist or an ophthalmologist. We have spatial acuity, and what spatial acuity is, it's the ability to resolve 2 points in space. So when we talk about spatial acuity, it's like point A to point B, right? You can visualize that space right there. We have temporal acuity. Temporal acuity is the ability to distinguish visual elements in time. What does that mean? Perfect example. TV, movies, video games, all of these things break down to temporal acuity. Now, there's a reason that I use Nosferatu here, because I am a spooky fan and I do like vampires. And this is a movie. So a fun fact, in the days of early motion pictures, the projector wasn't fast enough to keep up with the for the eye to see a continuous picture. So when you were watching the movie, you would see a flicker in the movies. And that became known, that's when movies became known as flicks.
Shut up.
Boom, right? Mind blown.
Brave was asking if you mean depth perception. I think this is different.
Ooh. It
Now
might
I'm all
be the
confused.
same. In the research I've done, I've only ever heard about visual acuity and not so much about depth perception, or one being the same as the other.
Okay.
But yeah, so that is temporal acuity, and that's how movies became known as flicks, because of the flicker in the early movies, many moons ago.
Yeah, Robert said that's where that came from. Mind blown.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool fact. I like dropping that every time I give this talk. And we have spectral acuity. And spectral acuity is the ability to distinguish differences in wavelength, like types of light. And a great example of this is photographers that work in a dark room with red light to see crisp photos and text. Red light is used all over the place when it comes to spectral acuity and being able to find your way, right? Photographers use it in a dark room because they can see the imagery, they can see the pictures they've taken a lot easier, and they're more crisp, like I was saying. You have red lights in a movie theater that, go down the stairs to the exits, right? That they're there so you can see those. The same with people on a submarine. When things go wrong and everything turns red, that's the way they can navigate through the tunnels rather easily and not hurt themselves. So you've seen these types of examples out there in the wild. It's science. Acuity is science. Now, I could probably go down a rabbit hole and talk about explanation of acuity and all these other cool things about low vision, but I couldn't tell you the difference between a rod and a cone and how that absorbs light, and that light turns images into pictures that your brain can process, and then you see that out in the world. So we're just going to move on. We have contrast sensitivity. That's another type of low vision impairment. This is very, very important. Now, when we talk about color contrast, we're talking about a person being able to distinguish something from the foreground compared to what is in the background. So what is good color contrast? What makes good color contrast? Anything that can bounce off of the background that is clearly readable, right? Like the black and the green, black and white, white and black. Those are easily discernible, easily able to read. Now, according to the W3C, the W3, WCAG 2.1, the minimum contrast ratio for level AA requirements is 4.5 to 1. Now, all of this stuff is changing all the time. It's going to be changing in the next few years. But this right here isn't good at all. Right? We have low contrast with the headings. The paragraph text is very low contrast. This would not work. I've seen this on the web, though. I've seen this in places. This is not going to work.
You're like, this is real.
Yeah, it's not good. But I've also seen this as well. This is how I used to build stuff a long time ago. Like young Chris back in 1996. High contrast colors and black backgrounds. This will pass all day long, but this still might not be a great user experience. These colors still might not work with somebody, but it will pass accessibility audits all day long for color contrast, because it's really, really high above AA, and it could possibly hit AAA as well, which it most likely does. So I talked about a few of these low vision types of impairments, but we have to focus on the problems, right? We have to think about these things when we're building. With contrast sensitivity, we have the contrasting colors, right? All too many times we see the wrong colors being used on the web or in software. They might look cool, right? It might come from a brand team or a design team, but they just don't work. And there's a reason this fails, right? This is using the wave extension. Martine was talking about this earlier. I do like using the wave extension along with Axe and a handful of different tools. But this is actually out there in the real world. This is a real world navigation I have seen. And it fails AA and it fails AAA because it's under the ratio for color contrast. It's a light gray on a white background. So it's not good, so it fails. But if you were to bump the text up, it passes. And the reason being is because even though it'll fail all day long on smaller font sizes, but the second you bump those font sizes up, since it's actually like almost in your face, it's being read out that, okay, now it's going to pass because the font size is higher, even though the color is lighter.
So it's not just color that affects the rating, but
Yep,
also
yep,
size
because
is
you
taken
have-
into account.
Yeah, because you have the normal text size, you have large text, So if you were to go in and do look up color contrast ratios and all that, the color is also paired. The color algorithm is also paired with font size as well.
You know, I have a dark patterns talk, and I've actually seen that pattern used intentionally to like hide things from users.
Yeah,
So
no, I think I saw that talk. You did that talk.
don't do that.
Where were we?
Yeah, you did a
dark patterns talk.
It's just so bad whenever like I see things like this happen unintentionally, but like really grinds my gears when I run across it, and you're like, that's on purpose.
Yeah,
you're using white on white so people can't find your unsubscribe, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Also, welcome, Cooler Me Purple or Color Me Purple, however you pronounce it. Welcome to the fam. Thanks for the follow.
Another issue that we have is communication through color. There's one thing that we cannot do is just communicate solely through color. It poses a huge problem, kind of like how I described in the last slide. If you're going to use color to differentiate things, you need to be able to add some type of visual distinction as well. So like, let's say you have a legend like this, and it's a legend that means all of these things right here, right? You're in some system, waiting, pushed, in progress, denied, passed. And let's say that you have a user that's colorblind, right? And you tell that person, oh, move it over to blue, it's waiting, or whatever the case may be. And your user or your teammate might be looking at this like, I don't know what blue and red and all those other colors are, because this is what they see. If they had a monochromatic color vision deficiency, or any type of color vision deficiency for that matter, making sure that you associate some type of verbiage and content with colors is only going to make that experience that much better. Disabling zoom. Don't do that. Please don't do that. What if your user can't see small text on a screen? Right, and now you disabled the zoom so they can't pinch in and read it.
Do people do this?
What if they want to zoom?
Do people disable the zooms? Who's doing this?
There have been times where I've seen it. Yep, there are some frameworks out there that have zoom disabled in them, or sometimes people don't want
Aztec was saying Instagram
users.
Aztec was saying Instagram for starters, and then Brave was agreeing that
some brand teams or marketing teams they don't feel the need sometimes to have the application be viewed on mobile, so they restrict the zoom. It's really messed up. It might not happen so much anymore, but it's definitely happened, and I've definitely seen it, and it worked in code bases where I've had to pump the brakes and be like, no, y'all can't do this. We need to have the user be able to zoom on what we're building here, right? But you can't restrict the user to a fixed state. They have to be able to zoom in and out when they want and how they freely choose to. But they might want to see art like this too. They might be in an art installation and want to zoom into something, but they're looking at a brochure. You never know. So don't disable the zoom. Another one is poor line height, and it's true. Poor line height does play a part in having an unaccessible experience. You want to make sure that there's definitely enough line height in between your sentences and your paragraphs, that things aren't running together, and your user or person, whoever is reading the text, can make out legibly, what that screen is what it says on the screen. Poor typography, that's another one. We have to make sure that we're not mixing a bunch of different types of fonts together, making sure that we're trying to choose the best font that's going to be really, really good for everybody when we're building on the web. So we have the solutions. We do have solutions to all these issues. We have ways of making things better. We have ways of fixing these things to make sure that we fall down an accessibility trap. Choose readable typography. Now this can be different for different people. Dyslexic users do like a more of an italicized type of font, but we can work with different types of fonts on the web that can be good for everybody. Icons and symbols can add great value, especially if the icons and symbols are universal. Use those if you can, if you need to, along with text to give context to those things. Enable zoom by default. Do not restrict the zoom from anybody. Stop disabling it. If you're disabling it, I'm going to go into your code base and submit a PR and put it back in because you're doing that. Don't hijack the zoom. It's not a good look. And we do have tools out there, and we talked about some of these tools in the roundtable this morning. Axe is a tool by DQ. This is one of the favorite tools that I use. It is a testing suite that can be used to do automated testing in the browser or in like end-to-end and unit testing. So you can use it in Chrome, Firefox. You can use it in Edge, Selenium, Cypress, Jest. DQ is a company out of Ann Arbor here in Michigan. This is a great tool to use. This is kind of how it breaks down. This is an older version of it, but it gives you violations and what needs review. You can inspect the code and it'll take you right where the issue is. You can highlight in the UI where the problem is. It gives you the element's location. It tells you the impact of that accessibility error, and the Learn More link will take you to DQ University. So you can learn more about that issue, the success criterion, who it impacts, how it impacts them, and how to fix those issues. I also pair this with Lighthouse. I love using Lighthouse. If you are a Chrome user, Lighthouse is built into the DevTools. It's built into Chrome. I use Firefox as my main browser, but anytime I'm doing any type of accessibility work, I pair Chrome with Firefox, and I always use Lighthouse. Lighthouse will give you a score out of 100. There's different audits you can do in Lighthouse. You can do a search engine optimization audit. You can do a progressive web app audit, performance, accessibility, best practices. And it uses Xcore under the hood in Lighthouse. It gives you a score of 100. There's different schools of thought when it comes to that number and being in the green, but it's a good way to just see and gauge when you have your automated stuff, when you're running your automated tests. And just one thing to keep in mind, automated testing is not going to get everything. It could get up to 20 to 50% of accessibility errors. The way to be on the right track and making sure that your experience is accessible, test a new screen reader. Make sure that you're doing screen reader testing and, dim your monitor. Don't look at your monitor. Cover your monitor up, because it's no fair if you're reading the screen and listening to what the screen's saying. That's cheating. Don't use your mouse. Use your keyboard only, right? Do these different types of manual tests to make sure that your experience is on its way to being as accessible as it can be.
Yeah, Robert was agreeing with you. Shout out to Lighthouse that it's so cool. And also, thanks for the follow, Shopnell420.
Yeah, Lighthouse is great. And there's another tool out there from Google, web.dev. So if you are working with somebody, maybe like a stakeholder, somebody that's not super technical, and they don't want to spin up Chrome and open up the DevTools to check and audit, they can go to web.dev in the browser, and it's pretty much like Lighthouse in the browser. So just a little knowledge bomb right there. So some key takeaways that I would definitely want everybody to walk away with: use colors that work. Make sure that you're testing the contrast of those colors. I did write an article on color contrast tools and checking that in Chrome. You can probably search it, or I can drop the link somewhere that talks about color contrast and tools that are out there. Run your sites through a testing tool and an auditing tool like Wave or Axe or Lighthouse to kind of get like a baseline of what needs to be fixed, and kind of understanding more about those different types of issues. Choose proper typography. Work with your teams. Work with your design team and your marketing team and your brand team with the colors. Work with them about the typography. Make sure that these decisions are being made from the beginning, and make sure that they're the right decisions for the audience. Use a plugin for your editor for testing. You can do that as well. There's different plugins out there that you can use in Visual Studio Code and other editors like that can run tests for you, like at ESLint. And leave Zoom alone. Don't touch the Zoom. Don't hijack the Zoom. Let that be. Here's a awesome quote from Marcy. If you're not following Marcy on Twitter, definitely give her a follow. Every little bit of accessibility that you contribute is so appreciated and so needed. There's resources and credits. We can give these out later. And that's me. Thank you so much.
Very nice. I'm assuming that Bitly does it have links to the slides? I know Zafis was asking for them. Potentially.
No,
maybe,
this one
maybe not.
doesn't have no, but I can get the link because it's on yeah, I have them out there. I just have to get the link.
Awesome.
So.
I will tweet it out, Zafis, whenever I get the link. But this was amazing. I know, yeah. Robert's saying excellent talk. You nailed it. Thank you so much. It really was.
Thank you.
Oh, so good.
Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, so this has been, I really like that Marcy said quote too, because I feel after the roundtable, after all 4 talks, there's just so much that was covered, and then there was so much that we couldn't cover. You know, it's such a big topic. So it is a heartening quote of, you know, anything that you can do, right? Like, don't try to tackle it all, because who was it that said it'll never be fully accessible, Chris?
My buddy Nick Steno.
Nick.
Yeah.
Yep.
No, but I think that's also, I really enjoyed that quote as well. It stood out to me because I think a lot of people are intimidated to even start diving into accessibility because they can see there's so much to do, and there's this feeling of it never being done, and there's this like, well, I just need to read one more blog post, or I just need to watch one more conference talk, and then I'll have everything I know to make something accessible. But I don't know that that's ever the case, and the more you can start building in with what you know, that's already leaps and bounds better than something with no accessibility at all. So
Right.
it's a spectrum, not an on-off switch. You know?
It's hard though. I feel like I like to look at the world and on or off, so it's hard for me. But no, it definitely. Well, Chris, do you have any other shout outs? We're actually going to raid a friend of mine, Broco Dev.
I'll be on the road here soon. I will be at Dev Nexus in Atlanta. I'll be at Codestock in Knoxville. I will be in Zurich, Switzerland in May.
Yay.
Oh.
So yeah, come and see me. I'll be on the road.
Awesome.
Yay.
Thanks, everybody. This was so much fun. We'll be on next Monday with our UI shows, I believe. I think everything's on as planned, but you all, oh, and there's the names in the chat as well. Nirvana just highlighted them. Awesome.
Go treat yourself.
Go treat yourself.
4,
Bye, everybody.
3, 2, 1.